The note was still on the counter when I found it. A torn sheet from one of Emma's coloring books, crayon scrawled in jagged block letters. Don't trust what they tell you. The children aren't safe. The sitter's bag was gone. The front door left ajar. And my daughter's stuffed rabbit, her bedtime anchor, lay face down in the hallway, as if it had been dropped in a rush. I stood in the silence of the house, heart pounding hard enough to hurt, straining to hear anything upstairs. That was the moment I realized I didn't know whether my own children were alive. Rewind 7 hours. It was a Friday evening in suburban Ohio. The kind of night when cul-de-sacs glow with porch lights and every house smells faintly of grilled meat. My wife Laura had convinced me to go with her to a work function, some dull networking mixer at the Marriott. The babysitter was a girl named Allison, 17, cheerleader smile. References from 2 other neighborhood moms who swore she was responsible. I'd met her twice, both times brief. She seemed harmless. We left around 6:30. Emma was 3, Josh was 6. They were in pajamas already. I kissed their heads, handed Allison a sheet with emergency numbers, and thought nothing of it. I didn't know that when I returned, the house would feel like a crime scene. Laura and I came home earlier than planned, just after midnight. The driveway was empty except for our own car. The porch light was off. The house dark. When we stepped inside, Laura noticed it first. "Where's Allison's jacket?" she whispered. It had been hanging on the entry hooks when we left. That was when I saw the coloring book page. At first I thought Emma had scribbled nonsense. But no, those block letters were jagged, rushed, written by someone in a panic. Don't trust what they tell you. The children aren't safe. I ran upstairs 2 steps at a time, Laura close behind. The kids were in their beds, blankets tucked around them, breathing steady, alive. But here's the thing. They didn't wake up when we came in. Not when I shook Josh gently. Not when Laura tried to rouse Emma. They just slept, too still, too deep. That's when fear set in. We called Allison's phone. No answer. We called her parents. They hadn't heard from her since late afternoon. Laura wanted to dial 911 immediately. I stopped her. Not because I wasn't scared, but because some part of me felt this wasn't random. Something about the note felt personal. I sat on the edge of Josh's bed, staring at his small hand curled against the sheet. His chest rose and fell rhythmically. Too rhythmic. Then I noticed the window latch, unlocked, wide enough for someone to slip inside. The next morning would bring more questions than answers. When the kids finally stirred awake, hours later, groggy, confused, they didn't remember Allison leaving. Josh rubbed his eyes and said, "She told us a story." "Daddy, what story?" I asked. He hesitated. "About a man who lies." That single line split something open in me. Because years ago, before Laura, before the house, before the kids, there had been another girl, another night, another disappearance. Her name was Rachel, and the police had asked me questions back then, too. I never told Laura about Rachel. Rachel was 19 when I knew her. She lived in the same apartment complex. She'd sometimes watch my dog when I was traveling for work. And then, one February evening, she was gone. Her car left parked in the lot. Purse in the front seat, a half-written note on her desk, the ink trailing where the pen had stopped. I was interviewed. Briefly they said I was the last person to see her alive. Nothing came of it, but the silence of that unfinished note never left me. Now here I was again, holding another note from another babysitter. Words warning me that the children weren't safe. By Sunday evening, police had canvassed the neighborhood. Allison's parents were frantic. Flyers already going up. Laura sat on the couch, holding Emma tight, her face pale. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the note, reading it over and over. Josh shuffled in, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. "Dad," he said. "Yeah, buddy. Why did Allison say you were dangerous?" The air froze. "What do you mean?" she said. "You lie. She said not to believe you." My stomach dropped. Because suddenly, this wasn't just a note from a panicked sitter. This was a message aimed directly at me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen with the note under the lamp, replaying every word Allison had spoken to my kids, every glance she'd given me in those brief meetings. Had she known about Rachel? Impossible. That case was buried in small-town police files 100 miles away. Unless someone told her, unless Rachel had told her, but Rachel was gone, unless she wasn't. By Monday, Laura was insisting we move in with her sister until things felt safer. I agreed outwardly, but inside, something hardened. I couldn't let this spiral, couldn't let Allison's disappearance reopen old shadows. So I began planning, quietly, deliberately, checking cameras on neighboring houses, reviewing bank statements, calling in favors from old contacts. Not because I wanted to find Allison, but because I needed to know who she was really working for, and if the past was clawing its way back, I had to bury it deeper. 3 days later, I found the link. Allison's mother, divorced, living 2 towns over, was Rachel's cousin. The babysitter hadn't just been a random hire. She had known exactly whose house she was walking into, and she'd left that note not as a warning to my children, but as a trap for me. I didn't tell Laura. I told her I needed to clear my head, went for a late drive. Instead, I drove straight to Allison's mother's house. She opened the door cautiously, surprised. Her eyes carried that same shade Rachel had. I told her I was worried about Allison, that I wanted to help. She let me inside. There were photos on the mantel, Allison with her cousin, Rachel, smiling, alive, dated just last summer. Rachel hadn't disappeared. She'd hidden, and now she'd sent her cousin into my home. I smiled, kept my voice steady, asked questions. Left without a trace of anger. But inside, everything crystallized. That week, I made calls, booked a rental cabin 3 hours north, told Laura it was a family weekend getaway to ease the stress. When we arrived, I lit a fire, poured Laura a glass of wine, put the kids to bed. And then, when the house was quiet, I sent the message I'd prepared to Rachel's number, the one I'd lifted from Allison's mother's phone. The text was simple: come get them if you want them safe. It didn't take long. By midnight, headlights swept the drive. Rachel stepped out, older but recognizable, eyes wide as she saw me on the porch. "You," she whispered. "Yes," I said, and behind me, Laura appeared, holding the note Allison had left, her face unreadable. Because here's the thing, Laura had known all along. She'd found out about Rachel years ago. She'd let me twist in silence. And now, she'd joined me in the plan. Rachel thought she was here to rescue the children. Instead, she was the one being lured. By morning, the cabin was empty except for the ashes of burned photographs and the faint scent of bleach. The kids slept peacefully through it all. Back home, Laura slid the coloring book note into a drawer. "Why keep it?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "Evidence." "Against who?" I asked. Her eyes met mine. "Against you." That was the deeper truth. The babysitter hadn't been warning the kids. She'd been warning Laura, and Laura hadn't destroyed me back then because she wanted control. Now, she had it. The real prisoner in this house wasn't Rachel. It was me. And Laura held the key. This is the end from my side. Share your thoughts about what happened next in the comment section. I will be reading every comment. See you tomorrow.